There are love stories that survive because they were told too many times. And then there are love stories that survive because so much of them was destroyed. What we know about Héloïse and Peter Abelard comes from letters that escaped fire, censorship, and silence. But what if some letters never survived? What if the most dangerous words were the ones never copied, never preserved, never allowed to exist? After the tragedy, after the castration, after the cloister doors closed, this is the story of what may have been written and what was lost. Paris did not hear Abelard's scream, but it felt its echo. In the early hours of the morning, a scholar once praised across Europe was reduced to a body marked forever. The punishment was meant to end a scandal. Instead, it created a legend. Abelard retreated into monastic life, his voice shifting from passion to penance. Héloïse was forced into the convent at Argentea, not by faith, but by necessity. She was not ready for God. She was not ready for silence. And yet, silence was imposed. Héloïse did not enter the convent seeking salvation. She entered carrying memory, sharp, intellectual, unbearable. She knew Latin, Greek, Hebrew. She had debated Aristotle when most women were denied literacy. She had loved Abelard not only as a man, but as a mind, and now she was told to forget him. But forgetting was never her virtue. Years passed before words crossed the cloister walls. When Abelard wrote first, his letter was cautious, restrained, a monk addressing a nun. He framed their past as sin redeemed by suffering. Héloïse'S reply shattered that illusion. She did not write as a penitent. She wrote as a woman who refused the lie that memory could be erased by vows. I would rather be your mistress than an empress. These were not the words of submission. They were the words of a woman claiming emotional truth over social order. What survives today is already dangerous. But historians have long suspected there were more letters. Letters to raw, to accusatory, to intimate. Letters that questioned the morality of forced vows. Letters that accused the Church of using God to bury scandal. Letters that spoke of desire without apology. Those letters did not survive. Monks copied what was acceptable. Archivists preserved what was useful. The rest vanished. Abelard increasingly framed their suffering as divine justice. Héloïse rejected that narrative. She questioned whether God truly demanded the erasure of love, whether virtue required emotional death, whether a woman's intellect had to be sacrificed to preserve male reputation. Her letters were philosophical weapons wrapped in longing. Héloïse asked a question medieval society could not answer. If love was a sin, why did God make it unforgettable? The convent did not respond. The church did not respond. Silence was the answer. At some point, the correspondence stopped. Not because the love died, but because it had become too dangerous to express. Héloïse lived on as abbess of the Paraclete. She governed, she taught, she wrote. But the personal voice disappeared, or was erased. When Héloïse and Abelard were buried together centuries later, legend claimed it was a reunion. But perhaps the true reunion never happened in stone. only in words. Words that were burned, lost, silenced, and yet their absence speaks, because the most radical act of Héloïse'S life was not loving Abelard, it was refusing to pretend that love was shameful. If stories like this matter to you, if you believe history is shaped as much by what was silenced as by what was written, then stay with us. Subscribe to Medieval Chronicles for more forgotten voices, forbidden ideas, and untold stories from the Middle Ages. Leave a comment. Whose voice do you think history tried to erase next? And if this story moved you, share it, because silence only wins when memory disappears. Some letters were lost, but their questions are still alive.